Or to this, a suggestion via a channel member. Guys, let's jump into it.
President Trump, meantime, also announcing he intends to pardon former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez.
Okay,
An
why?
investigation into Hernandez actually began during President Trump's first term in office. And back then, Hernandez was actually sentenced to 45 years in prison during the Biden administration for allegedly conspiring with traffickers to move into the U.S. Some estimates up to 400 tons of it. The president says now he is hoping to move beyond that. Meantime, he's also doubling down on his threats.
Yeah, guys, I definitely 100% would not move on from him at all. I would not, because like the amount of evidence that's basically been thrown against this case specifically is wild here. So by pardoning him, there has to be something in it for us, guys. And I mean this here. There has to be. Other than just pardoning him to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to go ahead and deal with Venezuela and Colombia. There's too much evidence here.
Hoping to move beyond that. Meantime, he's also doubling down on his threats on Venezuela, with the possibility of taking action on traffickers on land in that country, and perhaps very soon. In fact, this morning on Truth Social, he warned pilots and traffickers that they should consider the airspace above Venezuela to be closed. Want to bring in Fox contributor and former CIA station chief, the great Dan Hoffman. Dan, I have to say, I'm not surprised the president is attacking it from this perspective, but should we take from what he's done thus far, not just by positioning assets in the region and shutting off airspace for lack of a better description, does that mean a land offensive is imminent?
It could be. The president also reportedly had a conversation with Maduro in the past few days. And so I think the president might be pursuing a number of options. But look, we've got one of our most advanced aircraft carriers, the USS Gerald Ford, in the region and lots of military capacity there. If we attack Venezuela on land, that's an act of war. And so I think the president would do well to address the nation. I think that Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Rubio should be engaging with the Congress with oversight so that the Congress is fully informed of the president's plans and intentions, so that if we do take action, we're in a one team, one fight kind of scenario.
Yeah, guys, my only problem with this this specific instance here, what we're encountering in Venezuela, is a land offensive is going to be very tricky, specifically like large scale. They do have over 150,000 troops. We would need to start seeing a gigantic amount of troop movement from the United States of America into this region, or not even this region, probably one of our, I don't know, one of our bases that are pretty close at least here. Because the problem, again, we do not need to kind of like restart specifically the Vietnam kerfuffle. We don't need that here, because that's kind of what will end up happening in this scenario. I do think like being that we do have all of our like naval assets, not all, but a good amount of our naval assets there, we should definitely park in international water and start taking pot shots. If it comes down to it, they have a lot of people, all right? And they're just going to run to the center and the south of Venezuela. That's what's going to happen. And then when that happens, we're not really specifically prepared for that type of thing here. So we would need to take shots from the water, bro. All right. Like maybe we shouldn't put too many American lives specifically at risk for corrupt Maduro specifically. Now, the fact that Trump had a conversation with Maduro, I definitely would like to see something on that. The smart thing for Maduro right now would be to exile himself to Russia. That would be the smartest play right now for him, and just get out of here, bro. Get out of here immediately, because Trump is not going to stop. The United States of America is not going to stop, specifically if a good amount of the narcotics are basically coming from Venezuela and Colombia. I know Colombia is next. Don't get that confused here, guys. Right? But as of right now, we're focusing on Venezuela. The smart thing would be take pot shots from the water, bro.
Well, the president said this. I want to play a little sound. He basically laid it out point blank. He's warning traffickers, we're coming after you. Listen to this.
We're going to take care of that situation. We're already doing a lot. We've almost stopped. It's about 85% stopped by sea. You probably noticed that. People aren't wanting to be delivering by sea. And we'll be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. We warn them, stop sending poison to our country.
It's one thing to interdict over international waters. It's a whole other can of worms to actually attack a country,
Yes.
especially by way of land and perhaps even by air. You've seen circumstances like this play out before. There's a wide latitude, Chief, as I understand it, when it comes to terrorism. Isn't that right?
There is. This is a little bit different because you're talking about traffickers, and that's a bit different than terrorism.
Right.
But you're right. We have launched attacks against other nations who had harbored terrorists, who had given terrorists sanctuary. But I find that to be a little bit different than the current situation. I think the president would do well to present the evidence that we have to the American people. We're a bit wary, I think, U.S. citizens, of engaging in foreign conflicts. We saw what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, where we didn't have a real clear handle on what our strategic objectives were going in and what were the objectives for us to get out. And so I think that the president would do well to outline that and to have his key cabinet officials provide additional background, perhaps even behind closed doors, but also for full transparency overtly to the American people.
Real quick, I want to get your thoughts on this sound. This is Riley Moore, congressman from the great state of West Virginia, again, discussing the notion that we understand what happened in the catastrophic departure from Afghanistan. A lot of people came here. We didn't really have full vetting. We don't have the systems in that country, quite frankly, to really know who they all are. I want to get this sound and get your reaction about, again, the withdrawal and the risk to America. Listen.
He should have never been in this country to begin with. We had over 80,000 Afghan nationals piled into the United States. We don't know these people. We don't know who they are. This is the first time that I can recall the United States government brought a terrorist into our country.
It is a really strong take, and I think a lot of people feel exactly like he does. Your thoughts, 30 seconds.
Look, I think administrations have to deal with the consequences of their predecessors. We've got a war in Ukraine that began under President Biden's administration. We had the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan for all that entails. Terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIS enjoying open field running like they did before 9/11, and the Afghans who came to the United States. To the extent to which they were not vetted or not vetted properly, I'm sorry to say that's now the Trump administration's challenge. They're going to have to figure out a way to do it with Department of Homeland Security and FBI, and then any connections to overseas terrorists, that's over to the intelligence community, CIA primarily.
Yeah, got to get after it. And I think you were really sharp when you said, quite frankly, sometimes vetting is that day's vetting. It doesn't necessarily mean anything moving down the line. You have to stay in contact with these individuals, especially those who are coming back home from the battlefield. Dan Hoffman, thank you.
Well, I think he kind of misspoke here at the end here. Hold on. I think he meant that people are coming here from some of the countries that that are having issues. Let's just say that there. I'm not sure we should be vetting the soldiers. Okay, I think we should be vetting the people that most likely the soldiers were like getting insight from, like the locals at least. I think that's probably the most important thing here. That guy who did that absolute craziness in DC towards the National Guard. He just made things really bad, right? Like, understand this here. We're in a climate where one person can have the ability to affect the entire group of an entire group of people. And based on some of the stories that you guys sent me today here, I can definitely tell you that that's most likely what's happening here, guys. Is every single individual like some crazy, that type of guy? No, it's not, guys. They're not that. They're not every single one of them is, right? But could there be potential for this to keep happening consistently? Specifically, when you start pulling people from very specific regions that absolutely have disdain for us? Yes, it's likely. It's very likely, actually. But is it everyone? No, right? So I think we need to do a better job absolutely vetting. But again, with the statement that this guy here just made, it's smart, right? Because there are a lot of countries around the world who just do not keep records of such things, guys. They don't keep records because these things are normal, right? There's some South American countries who have issues keeping records of people and what they've done historically, right? Specifically, if you're in some like small rural town, bro, there's no information on you, bro. They don't know who you are, right? But obviously, everyone just hopes for kind of the best and things like that. Hopefully these things do not ever happen. Hopefully the person that we are kind of giving sanctuary to, for the most part, via the refugee program, is someone who is going to come and assimilate and kind of fit into the American way of life. But not a lot of that doesn't really happen a lot of the times. This is why we have like Chinatown. It's why we have like, I don't know, Koreatown. I don't mean to keep naming like Asian places, right? But you get what I'm saying here. Little Zimbabwe, right? Little Haiti. Like this is the problem that I think we have. I think most people have issues with these things here. I think we have no problem specifically dealing with like different other people's cultures and things like that, right? But you have to understand that when you come to the United States of America, you're running from something and you're trying to get sanctuary in the United States of America. You should probably attempt to maintain what made you want to seek sanctuary in the United States of America in the first place. And that means maintaining the American culture. Again, I've said this often here. The people that are currently living in some of these places that are being pushed out by, other people's cultures specifically, they didn't want to live in that culture, guys. They didn't. They would have moved to your country. But you don't even want to live in your country. You see what I'm saying here, guys? Okay, you have to assimilate. Period. If you want to maintain America for what it has been to the point, where you obviously saw the success in America. This is why you came. You have to assimilate. You have to understand our culture, et cetera, et cetera. Not saying get rid of yours, right? But just understand that you have to fit into what we are here. All right, that's it. My opinion here. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. If you guys are new here, please like and subscribe. In the meantime, I'll catch you guys later. Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies. And I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings. And we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry, right? Listen, like and subscribe.